and a very warm welcome to you. This is Afternoon Express and we're back, baby. It's a new week. I'm so excited to be joined by an all-time favorite, the guest chef for today, Aphelele.
Hello, Palisa.
How are you?
I'm good, Palisa. And you?
Aphelele, it's been a while since we've seen you, and are you ready to get cooking in this masterclass?
Yes, actually, it's good for me also to be back here and then just to catch up with you guys.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, Dumi, also lovely to see you, our resident chef, our foodie, the lady who puts together all the magic.
It always is great to be in this kitchen, Palace, and I'm glad we brought him back because we need to make sure that he's still the chef that he claims to be.
Absolutely. And it's time to pay attention because this week, it's beef's time to shine alongside veggies on this Tuesday Afternoon Express Masterclass with me, Balisa Tembe. Our Olympic chef, Aphelele Dlungana, is making his long overdue comeback to this kitchen as we're going to be preparing T-bone steak drizzled in mushroom sauce with roasted baby potatoes on the side, a fan favorite of oxtail, and we're also going to be making tripe in a tangy tomato sauce. That sounds delicious. South Africa, I want you to scoot up closer to the television and make sure you pay attention because we're about to get cooking.
Yes, Balisa, we're ready.
We're ready.
But before we get into all of that, you know, Aphelele, I have to touch base with you. I think the last time we saw you had to be February this year?
Yes, February this year, beginning of the year.
And so much has happened since then. I mean, there have been dramatic highs, dramatic lows in the country. How has it been for you?
It's been, as you say, highs and lows, but for us, for me personally, the restaurant business, I've kind of taken a step back and focusing on the private chefing more. Because that's where everyone now is feeling comfortable just having someone to come and cook for them at home instead of sitting around in a crowd. So, yeah.
And how are you adjusting to that jump? Because working in a restaurant is a lot more demanding, I do understand, than private chefing. But also there's that security, that safety, especially during a pandemic, that private chefing allows.
Private chefing allows that also. The old pressure of cooking and just rushing time. Now with private chefing, you actually pay more attention to what you're doing. Yep.
I like that. Dumi, when it comes to Aphelele, and especially what we have in the kitchen today, what are some of the highlights you're looking forward to?
I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about the meat, Balisa. You know, every time we're in the kitchen, you learn so much. You know, even though I'm a chef, there are things that sometimes we bring in chefs and you're like, actually, I didn't think of it like that, or I didn't know that. So it's always great to know that there are people that we're bringing into the studio, into our kitchen, that are constantly giving us new gems and new, you know, tricks and tips and all of that stuff. So I'm ready to hear and find out what he's been learning and teaching when he's doing all those private lessons of his.
Well, let's get into it. You've got some hearty pieces of meat here in front of us. Can you just talk to us about what's going to be on the menu today?
Okay, what's going to be on the menu today, Palisa? We have tripe. Tripe is stomach. Yeah, and then also we have a T-bone steak. And then we'll also be using oxtail.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, these different cuts of meat also, I suppose, need to be prepared differently. So what are some of the things that we can be looking forward to learning when it comes to this cook-along, especially when it comes to preparing the meat?
Yeah, okay. Since it comes to this, because I see that we have different cuts, so this means that we want to be cooking them way, way differently. Some of these meats, you need to cook them for long because you need to, get the gelatin out so the meat can be soft and then you get the sweet flavors from it. Like something like tripe. This will take a while to cook, like 2 hours. You need to get it soft. And then your steak is more of dry cooking it. So you fry it on a pan on a griddle. That one is like 7 minutes to get your medium rare. And then on your oxtail, that's the tougher piece of meat. So that will take quite a while to cook. It's got sweet flavors in there. If you cook it right, you get the gelatinous of it. Yeah.
I'm so excited to get into all of the meat here on Afternoon Express. But, you know, we are a country that do love our meat. But you also have to have for veggies. I mean, a lot of people do love to get some roasted veggies in there. So today, it's all about our beef and the veggies. So what are some of the veggies that we're going to be using today?
Today, since we're still in the middle of winter, so all the dishes that we'll be cooking is kind of focusing on that. We're using a lot of root vegetables, which pair nicely with all the meats that you're cooking today.
Yes, Balisa. So some of the dishes are going to be served like with potatoes, and we always know that a hearty stew, a hearty dish like that goes so well with the potatoes because they absorb so much of the juice in there. But even like the steak that we're going to be serving with baby potatoes, we're going to cook them separately. Like you said, Chef, dry cooking them. We'll explain as we go what we mean by the dry cooking, and you know. But we've got some carrots, we've got potatoes that are going to go in there. I mean, there's a staple. Onions. I cannot think of cooking a dish without having onions in there. It's like one of the holy grail of cooking. cooking, you need to have some onions in there. But as we go, Balisa, let's explain what veggies go well with the type of meat that you're also making to get the most out of your dish, I guess.
Brilliant. I'm very excited about that. But before we get into the cooking, there's a conversation point that I just always get so intrigued by, and I would love to learn so much more. Yes, we are experimenting in the kitchen today, but there's a separate, different type of experimentation that also happens in the kitchen. And if I imagine correctly, and if I remember correctly, it's called molecular gastronomy.
Yes.
Now, what is molecular gastronomy all about, and how could South Africans play around with that in the kitchen? Or is it for the professionals?
It's, I think if you have enough knowledge about it, you can dabble with it. But molecular gastronomy is taking your ingredient and try to manipulate it and cook it using your different chemicals and techniques. Instead of using your stove, you can puree it and make your pearls, or you can freeze it so you get a different texture depending what ingredients you're using. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, it seems as if we might need a whole completely different masterclass when it comes to that. But we are finding out new, fresh ways of playing in the kitchen today. And if you would like to get your hands on any of the recipes that we'll be making today, it's all about beef and vegetables. Simply head over to afternoonexpress.co.za, where Dumi and the team have detailed quite intrinsically, very much detail in the ingredients that you need and recipe list. So pay attention as we're about to start cooking.
Made with love by Clover.
Our kitchen counter is set, so let's get cooking, ne?
Let's get
Yes,
cooking,
let's get
buddy.
cooking, buddy.
Well, here's a recipe that will leave you believing that you are a world-class chef in a top-class restaurant. We're doing a T-bone steak with clover fresh milk mushroom sauce with roasted baby potatoes on the side. I'm very excited for this. This is like an all-time favorite.
Definitely, Palisa. I mean, any steak for me is good. As long as it's cooked perfectly, which I hope you're going to be doing today, and then I'm happy.
Definitely want to cook it good.
So when it does come to a beautiful T-bone steak, first of all, what part of the cow is a T-bone steak cut from?
Part of the cow, it's called...
I forgot what it's called.
Yeah.
Shoulder blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where you get your sirloin also. So if you just cut off the bone from it. Yeah.
Oh, nice. And that is quite a hearty, chunky piece of meat. Is that quite important for this recipe?
Yes, it is important because that's how you need about 40 centimeters thick. So it gives you the proper temperature that you're looking for. You can get it easily because that meat cooks very quickly. So you don't want to overcook it also. I prefer it medium rare. Other people prefer to it done. And also the thing about this piece of meat, the smaller cut here on the side usually cooks faster. Yeah. So you need to be careful also about that.
Do you know what I like? That's my taste tester. You know, when you're growing up, you're like, let me check if it's cooked. Let me check if there's poison. That's that extra piece there. But Dumi, on your side, you've already started. What are you creating?
Balisa, I'm making the mushroom sauce for us. And I believe any steak, if served correctly with the beautiful, luscious sauce, just, you know, is heaven on a plate. So to make our mushroom sauce, I've started chopping up some garlic here. I've got some onions. I've got my butter, the mushrooms, who are the star of the show. We've got some cheese, some salt and pepper. And I've also got some flour, because you know with any sauce that we're going to be making, like the one we're going to be making, we're starting off with the white sauce, making a roux, and then from there we add all the ingredients to that.
I can see you've moved your pot.
Yes.
You've moved it off the heat. Why?
Correct, because we're using butter for this. You know, normally we talk about making sure whatever oil, fat you use has a high smoking point. Butter doesn't. So what we want to make sure of is we don't burn the butter. So I'd already had it on to be nice and hot, and now that it's cooled down, I can actually start on the sauce.
Beautiful. Okay. You are still continuing.
Yes.
You are adding the butter to it, Dumi, and then as this roux and the bechamel sauce comes together, for the mushrooms, what else do we need?
Balisa, all we're going to do is normally people, when they make a white sauce, they make the sauce first, then add the ingredients, the flavorants. I don't do it like that. So I'm going to be starting by sauteing our onions and our garlic, then add our mushrooms because we want to release that flavor from the mushroom. And then from there, add our flour and the rest of the ingredients.
Beautiful. Before we move away from the bechamel mushroom sauce station. I want to find out from you, Dumi. I also sometimes cook then the other ingredients, whatever flavor I want to add today. It's mushroom sauce. I normally pan fry those separately, and then I kind of make my sauce separately, mix it all in all together. You're saying this is a different way of doing it by starting with those heavier ingredients before the sauce.
You can actually do it that way as long as you make sure that you add all of those with the liquid into that sauce.
Okay.
Just don't get rid of that liquid because that's where the flavor is. Now, if you just get the ingredients, the mushrooms, but leave the sauce and get rid of the sauce, then that's all your flavor gone. You don't want that.
I like that. Okay, Chef, on your station.
Yes, on my station. But Tumi, can you please pass me that brush? So
No problem. There you go.
we're going to start cooking up the steak now. So what I usually do, I actually don't like adding oil in the pan, yeah? Because just brush your steak lightly. I know some people like to season before they cook the steak, but personally I prefer to season after. But seasoning before, it also gives you a nice, beautiful golden color sometimes. So that helps. So brush this off, but you need to make sure that your pan is really, really, really hot while doing this.
Okay.
You want to coat your meat, so we call it sealing. So you're locking in the flavor there. So I usually start with the bone, because that's there for presentation. So flat side up. It also helps to cook a little bit of marrow that's exposed there on the side.
Beautiful. Chef, as you are just getting that meat underway, I've got the baby potatoes and simple, easy. I mean, there's nothing much to it. Baby potatoes are just so amazing. You don't even have to bother to cut, chop, or kind of even poke holes. Me and Dumi were talking about a lot of people end up poking holes in their baby potatoes just to make sure that they are fluffy, cooked all the way out. But today we're saying,
We're not doing that, Bella. So the reason for that is the skin from the potato is nice enough that when you put it in the oven, it's going to steam beautifully. The potato itself will steam beautifully in its own skin, making sure that it goes nice and golden brown on the outside, but then the potato is nice and fluffy on the inside. Sometimes if you poke holes in your potato, you release the steam from it, meaning one that you might have to cook it for a bit longer. And yes, some people say it helps add flavor to your potato, but then it also means that you're not giving it time to cook in its own juices on its own, you know? Okay. So, Palisa, to add to my sauce here, I've just put in some salt and pepper. I'm going to go in with our mushrooms here. Now, most times people also want to overly chop their whatever they're adding there and make it very fine. I don't want to do that. I want to keep our potatoes nice and big because you also want to see what exactly the sauce is. I don't want to call it a mushroom sauce and everything is disintegrated. I want to see the sauce that we're talking about. So I'm going to let the mushrooms cook down. And you also know your oil has to be very high when you're cooking mushrooms because you don't want them to steam. You want them to fry.
I just lower the temperature a bit. So now I'm putting the fat side down. So you're just rendering that fat. You don't want to have the temperature too high because that might scorch your meat. Get it black and then you get that bitter flavor from it.
I understand. Yeah. So, okay, I think it's very, very important to kind of recap here what Chef is going through. Right now we are stove frying our T-bone, but if you were to try maybe over coal, over a braai, how then would we be able to make sure that that T-bone is taken care of? You've said on the stove top, you have to make sure your pan is hot.
Your pan is hot.
Is that the same over a braai?
Over a braai, make sure there's no flames, but you must make sure that also you still have that high heat, because remember, as we said, that this is more of a dry cooking it. So high temperatures, it's a quick, you need to have good temperature, so because it takes a short time for this to mess it up, personally. So on a coal, and then also if you cook it, I'll prefer cook it on a coal because you get the beautiful smoky flavors from it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, I love the fact that that's going in there, Chef, going detailed as to how to put together a beautiful, succulent T-bone steak. Today we're getting the help of a sauce, and that's also going to just elevate the flavors. And to put together that sauce, we have to call on our trusted friend, Clover Fresh Milk. Now, what you might not know is that with Clover Fresh Milk, you get superior quality every litre to help you give your family nothing but the best. And what I love about Clover Fresh Milk as well is that for up to 18 days, it stays fresh. That thanks to its triple protect. And that's, I think, what elevates it, makes it so superior.
Exactly, Balissa, and this is why I've chosen to use it for our sauce today. So I'm going in with some of our milk here. What I've done is before I added our milk, I added our flour because that's the thickening agent for the sauce. So remember, I just had our onions, our garlic and stuff. So now I've added our milk into this, and now what what's going to happen, it's going to cook down and thicken up and become that beautiful, luscious sauce that we want to serve on top of our steak. And Chef, I think it's probably almost time to put it on the other side right now.
Yeah, that's what I was just waiting for you there. Because remember, this fat that's going to bounce off. So now what I'm doing now, buddy, set one side. We're going to cook it for 7 minutes. On one side, you get the beautiful silk color, golden brown on it. And then we're going to, don't touch it for 7 minutes. And then after 7 minutes, we're going to turn it on the other side and cook it for like 5 minutes on it. And then we take it out and then we'll rest it.
Complete cooking time when it comes to that thick, you said 14 centimeters.
4 centimeters.
4 centimeters steak. You're going to need about 14 minutes, 7 minutes each side, making sure that you give that all the love. And with my baby potatoes, I'm going to cook these in the oven for 30 minutes on 180. But don't you worry if you missed any of the steps. Dumi has detailed it very, very thoroughly on our Afternoon Express website. Just head over there, afternoonexpress.co.za. Now on social media, we are still connecting with our viewers because we want to find out from them. If you had to live off only one type of meat for the rest of your life, which would it be? Remember to use that hashtag Afternoon Express in all of your comments. As things are sizzling here in the kitchen, people across Mzansi are obsessed with oxtail. And coming up, we'll explain why as we prepare it.
Express yourself.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, where we are joined by our guest in the kitchen today, Aphelele Dlungana. Now, as an Olympic chef, what do you have for us? What are we focusing on today?
Today we're focusing on meat, and then now we're going to be doing an oxtail. So we're still continuing with that meat factor. So what we have right now today, we're doing oxtail, but the preparation, we're starting with that.
So whilst you get that heated and once you get those pots going, this is one question I've got for you, Mzansi. Heads or tails? Now, if you've chosen tails, then you are right on track with our next recipe that promises to keep you smiling from ear to ear. I'm talking about oxtail tender, fall off the bone oxtail. Dumi, I'm already salivating. It sounds so good.
Me too, Palesa. Oxtail has got to be one of my favorite cuts of meat to enjoy, Palesa, because of the stewing factor of it. You know, when you cook something low and slow, not only do you get the flavor from it, but you just get that, it feels like home. I think anything that's made like that for me feels like home. So, Chef, what exactly do we need for the stew?
For the stew, we'll need carrots, and then from my side, let me just start here. From my side, I'm oxtail, obviously. And then I'll need the flour. The flour will help to give the meat a little bit of color, and then also that helps with the sauce later on to thicken it. And then while that side, you're busy with the veggies that we're going to be adding to the stew later on. And Palisa also is busy with the potatoes. The potatoes will absorb most of the juice, and then you get the beautiful flavor of the oxtail from it.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
You know, I think my new name should be Lilo, because the question is rice or potatoes, and my answer seems always to be potatoes. I'm excited about this, though. Aphelele, though,
Yes.
when people do put together oxtail, there's an order that tends to get misconstrued. People end up putting the wrong things first and the things that are meant to go later on in the beginning. So can you just talk us through how we play with the meat and the vegetables, making sure that both are cooked perfectly?
Perfectly. Thanks for touching on that, Pali. You see, when it comes to, because this, we want to be cooking it very, very slow. It's slow cook. So you need to start with your sirloin. Flouring it as you're looking at now. So that will give the flavor to your pot, because you're going to get the chopped bits at the bottom. And then that we're going to take out, and then we're going to be putting our veggies. Now we're going with the onions straight after that. And then you need to add your hard vegetables, because you can't be using anything that's small. I mean, that's soft. Things like your baby marrow, that is going to disappear on your pot. So we'll be working with potatoes and carrots, and that you add right at the end, say about 30 minutes before your dish is finished, because you still want to have a little bit of crunch in your veggies also.
Ah, definitely. I think for me, that's what's the differentiating factor when it comes to veggies and meat, especially in a stew.
Definitely, Palesa. So remember at the beginning, we were touching on the different types of veggies that would work with the kind of dishes. So for instance, if we make it like a steak, we made a mushroom sauce. So in veggies like perhaps what you've said, Chef, baby marrows would work there because you just flash fry them and they'd work in that dish. But baby marrow wouldn't work here because if you add it in from the beginning, it disintegrates and disappears. You can add it at the end, though. Like, for instance, let's just say you've got like 5 minutes before the dish is completely cooked. Then you can chuck it at the very end. So it is important to also see how you balance which veggies with which dishes. Because I do also know that baby marrow is very good at absorbing flavor of whatever it is you make. So you just need to eyeball it and check which veggies will cook perfectly with what dish and at which point, Chef. Like you said, potatoes and carrots are going to go at the very end. So that's why we also just laid back here.
Because another thing that I love to do, depending on what meat I'm cooking, whether it's chicken curry, beef curry, or lamb curry. Today we're focusing on oxtail, but I do have that, you know, that dreaded drawer at the bottom of your fridge that has that, you know, that veggie that's got a two more. But you don't want to throw it away. You do want to enjoy it still. So sometimes I do like throwing that in, but I'm loving what you're saying. It's all about timing if I do decide to incorporate it. Let's get back to the meat. Now we're using oxtail. Is it quite literally oxtail?
It started like that with oxtail, but now you use cows, because back then oxtail, I mean, like the demand now also for that. I don't know how many oxes you'll have.
Very true, Palesa. So it was initially it was just ox that was used for that, because obviously with cattle we know there's cows, there's ox, but nowadays because our Dumi just can't stop eating this oxtail. You know, so oxtail has become somewhat more of a culinary term that's used to describe the tail of the cow or the cattle, and we just use that in our dishes. And the one thing I love about oxtail, Chef, is because it's got those gelatinous flavors on itself, right? So as you cook it, it melts down, and it's got the almost like marrow-like flavors that come from it, Palesa.
Beautiful.
Making it just a delicious cut of meat to enjoy.
So then, is it safe to say, Chef, Uguti, the reason why oxtail is just so darn expensive is because of demand?
Yes.
Definitely. As you can see, we've mentioned the fact that oxtail takes a while to cook. So that's also time. That's, you know, if if a restaurant is to be making oxtail, best know that they're starting quite early in the morning to prep such dishes. So it's also time, you know, the preparation of it, making sure that it's cooked to perfection.
Yeah.
So all of that, and because, like you said, Aboduli and Abopalesa are constantly asking for more. So it's also become somewhat of a...
Understood. I actually saw a funny meme on social media the other day, literally about oxtail. Kuthiwa, if you really want to see who's got the money like that, take a huge serving of oxtail and throw it on the ground, because that's how you separate the boys from the men. Oxtail is something that's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
So it's nice to enjoy it on like a Sunday lunch type where the entire family does come together. Now, I'm almost done with my potatoes. How's it going there on the meat station?
The meats, okay. This is the black meats that we were talking about. So now I'm going to be adding the onions there. Careful to me.
So what you're talking about, Chef, in the chef terms, we'd be calling this deglazing.
Yeah,
right?
deglazing.
Yeah,
So you're getting all those oxtail flavors. And then, so you're going to be sauteing this.
All right. So you're sauteing it, you just added the onions to that dish right now. So the juices from the onions not only help, but they're also perfect because they lift off all of the ingredients that you got in that oxtail that you have over there from the pot, making sure you're not getting rid of the oxtail flavor.
I like that. And then the rest of these ingredients, because you know, as in the kitchen, you can't just throw everything in the pot and hope for the best. Everything has its time, and at the end of the day, we do not have 3 hours, 2 hours to make sure that this oxtail is correct. So at what stage would we start adding these different, the flour and the different elements?
Remember the flour, we coated the oxtail with flour already.
So we're done then?
We're done then. So that will help with taking the sauce also, since you give it color, and it will take in the sauce also later. And remember that oxtail has got a lot of gelatin in it, so it will thicken the sauce.
Just for some additional moisture there.
This you can also deglaze with wine.
Okay.
For that, just to lift those flavors. Red wine works. And then I'll have the oxtail. We're going to add our oxtail now.
Okay, perfect. As you can see, Palisa, all those charred bits that we're talking about are what are also left at the bottom of that pan, so that's also additional flavor.
Okay, Chef, as you are adding those elements to me, and then in what order would we continue putting this together?
All right, so in that sense, Palisa would then go in with, we've got some oxtail soup powder going in there. We'd add that, add our sugar, add our salt and pepper, and then add some white wine vinegar into that.
Oh, is that what this is?
That's what white vinegar.
And some of our water, and let it all cook down. Cover it with a pot and don't look at it for like a whole hour, just to make sure it steams nicely.
And then we put in the potatoes and then the carrots.
At least 30 minutes before it's done.
30 minutes before the time.
Okay, well, just after all of that knowledge, I hope that it is in there, just like that oxtail is in the pot. That was one tantalizing recipe, and you can also get in on it. Promise that you head over to afternoonexpress.co.za for the full ingredients list, so you could be making this beauty at home. Now, some people find tripe a challenging meat to eat, but when we return, we'll show you how to augment this timeless traditional flavor with a tangy tomato sauce.
Express yourself.
to our Tuesday masterclass with Chef Dumi and Chef Aphelele. Now, Aphelele, I'm looking forward to this next one.
The next one, remember, we're focusing on beef today. So right now we're doing tripe. It's considered a delicacy in other places and my all-time favorite.
I'm excited to get into it because there is no one duo that stays winning no matter what when you pair it. What am I talking about? Beef and veg. And right now we want to focus on what we call the real McCoy, tripe. Now today we'll be cooking it with a deliciously tangy tomato sauce. Now, Dumi, this is very different from how I grew up enjoying it, that's for sure.
I know exactly what you mean, Palesa. And before I even get into the flavors, I want to first put our tripe in there because you know tripe takes forever to cook. I remember in our home, we'd even cook it the whole day and just let it cook while we do everything else. Look at how excited it is to get into the pot even. But yes, Palesa, we're pairing it with a tangy tomato sauce. And I know most people are on some, I mean, I'd have it with just salt and pepper, ulusu, just plain and simple like that. I get it, but there's so many ways that you can enjoy tripe without it just being plain. So that's why I want to show people, Uguti, you can do so much with your tripe. You don't have to leave it basic all the time. So let's get that cooking, and then we'll leave it because you want it to be nice and tender. So we want our tripe to cook for at least, Mina, I like to say, and I know it's a lot, I like to say at least 3 hours. At least 3 hours, because then you're guaranteed that by the time you touch it, it jiggles. Then you know that it's cooked. But into our tangy sauce, we're going to need some tomato puree, some onions, we've got some red chili flakes, some salt, and we've also got some white wine vinegar and our oil, which is going to basically start the dish for us. But you and Chef are on a different station. So Chef is going to be making the mirepoix, which is our carrots and celery with some onion that I've already started with. And Pali, you're going to be grating some Parmesan for us because that's going to go on top because instead of serving it with rice or ritombolo, we're serving it with pasta.
Okay. So, Chef, what is quite interesting about this recipe? I'm already kind of picking up the ideas that you're putting down in this recipe. Uguti, normally, if you do have like a tomato bolognese sauce, that's what you'd use. You'd use like a minced meat or you'd use kind of like a ground beef. But now, because we are still focusing on beef, instead, though, we're using the tripe, which is the insides, ulusu, essentially. But we're doing that same idea, the whole pasta idea, the pasta theme.
Yes, we are. I mean, like, you're going to get, talking about, like, you're doing the bolognese and stuff. So this, I think the flavors will be different.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to get that tripe flavor. Tripe flavor is, you can identify it from
A mile away.
A mile away. It's just working on different flavors on this. I mean, like, I'll take this, you're just putting it also on the South African twist, because most of us, we don't eat tripe like that. You just boil tripe and then you add your potatoes if you're lucky enough, but all in all, it's just tripe on its own.
Now, Chef, Udumi referred to what you're preparing here as a mirepoix. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Can you just talk me through the idea of that and why these 3 ingredients come together so beautifully for this recipe?
Mirepoix is basically, this is where we get the flavors from. It's your celery, your onions, carrots, and garlic. But yeah, this is the flavor profile. I take it as that. I'm like, there's no meal that you would cook, I think, without any onions. The onions also bring the sweetness in it. So yeah, carrots bring the sweetness also in there. And the trick of doing this, personally, I like to cook the mirepoix first, just to lock in the flavor and release the aromas from it. And then you can add your meats afterwards.
Well, Chef, now that you're talking about mirepoix first, can I ask you to pass me those carrots then?
Please.
And then you can get on the celery station for me because this is in essence what the mirepoix is, Bella. So we've got our onions, we've got our carrots, and we've got our celery. They're the base of our dish because with most stew-like dishes, that's what we were talking about. You know when your stew cooks down and the gravy gets all thick, it's because these have cooked down to that consistency where even if you don't make a gravy on the side, that liquid itself becomes that thickened gravy because of this ingredients we've added in. I remember one of the chefs actually said, I think it might have been Dion, who said there were times when to thicken a gravy that actually grate onion. So this is in essence that trick again where you just use the mirepoix as a thickening agent as well.
Okay, beautiful. We are learning, we are creating something special here. It seems like the veggie station is done and dusted. Going back to the tripe. Chef, you already mentioned that in certain countries, tripe is considered a delicacy. We kind of come together around the fire, amadombolo, and everyone just kind of dives in there. It's very much reminds me of the rurals, Epizana, where I grew up also playing. So can you help me understand the idea of how different countries tend to enjoy tripe? I've enjoyed it here on Afternoon Express, representing the Zim Nation in Zimbabwe with peanut butter.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have a chef friend that used to cook tripe for us. He adds fish to it, which was the first time for me. He's Congolese. That's how they have it. They add fish to the sauce, and they actually have a tomato paste on it, like the one we're doing today.
Love that. So that's also very reminiscent of what we're doing today, but adding the fish. I wouldn't have thought of that.
I also didn't think that it would work, but it actually does work.
All right, we're learning. Tumi, how else have you seen tripe being enjoyed and the other countries that kind of see tripe and say, yeah, you know, we kind of do that too?
I know of countries that actually enjoy it in a white wine. They add stuff like that to it. And before, I used to think that South Africa was the only place that found tripe as a delicacy, as a dish of sorts, you know. But I've noticed that around the country, yes, we might call it different things. Around the world, sorry, different people do enjoy tripe. You know, it's no longer just a delicacy. It's just about us taking that whole cow, that whole cattle, and making sure we don't waste any part of it. So in essence, let's just say you've cooked down your tripe for about 3 whole hours. You then go and add your meat into the rest of the station here. And how we're going to cook this down is in that tangy tomato sauce we mentioned. And we've just got some tomato puree that we've added into this. And you still want to let it cook down a bit because you want to get that acidity out of the tomato puree. So all I'm going to do, Palisa, is stir these in. I've added my seasonings, I've added my salt and my pepper in here. So all I'm going to do on a medium heat, no longer on high, because in essence our tripe is already cooked. I'm just going to cover this up and let this baby cook for about another 30 minutes just to make sure it reduces and all those juices from the tripe, you know, in essence, cook down.
Beautiful. And do me another thing, or chef, maybe you can also help me kind of understand this. Today we're using, I like to call it the towel, the blanket type texture of the tripe, but so many people enjoy different types of insides. So can you just help me understand when we say it's an inside, what exactly of the inside, which intestine, which organs are we using? And for this recipe, are we able to kind of play? Are we able to be versatile and not only add if it's the stomach lining, for example?
You can add stomach lining for flavor, but as we said, today we're using the towel, but you get different types of tripe. The other one that looks like honeycomb, and then you get the curly ones, and then you get the ones that looks like it's got folds over it.
Yes.
And all of that stuff also takes different times to cook, because some of it is a little bit thicker, which will take a lot of time to cook, because the ones we're using today.
Okay, so it's very important for this recipe you use a uniform type of tripe. It's nice to chop and change and play, but if you want to make sure that your cooking time is equal and even, make sure that you do that. Dumi, voila.
Voila, Pale. So this has been cooked down, reduced, and is delicious and tasty, Pale.
Excited. Now, did you miss that recipe? Well, no reason to feel gutted. We have you covered. Just head over to afternoonexpress.co.za to get the full recipe and ingredients list. I hope you're enjoying my dad jokes today.
I am, Palace. I just hope the rest of South Africa is too.
It's time for desserts, but that doesn't mean the job is done for our veggies. When we come back, we're making yummy pumpkin cookie squares.
Express yourself.
we done with our veggies in the savory way, but we're about to get into some sweet veg, ne?
Yes. We're doing now pumpkin cookie squares. So you're getting those sweet flavors of a pumpkin now.
Oh,
Yeah.
looking forward to it. Now, NutriKids is all about fun and nutrition for the little ones. The magical range of NutriKids is a good choice for moms and even better for kids. And did you know that for every NutriKids product you purchase, you have contributed to a new house of hope in Gqeberha? With your help, Clover NutriKids is collaborating with the Childhood Cancer Foundation of South Africa, CHOC. They have supported this program for 15 years and counting. Let's celebrate with some NutriKids pumpkin cookie squares. Now, Dumi, that is a bit of a mouthful, but the right mouthful we're about to get are those delicious pumpkin squares.
Correct, Balisa. And the one thing I love about this is that as our kids grow, people think that they shouldn't be getting milk, as in you can't serve them milk anymore because they're no longer on the bottle. I feel like this is the perfect way to make sure you get that milk into their system. And that's why we're going to be using our NutriKids instant milk powder here, Balisa, because we're going to be incorporating it into our recipe. So to start off, I've got some softened butter that we're going to be using to make our cookie squares. We've got some sugar, some vanilla essence, some eggs, and yes, Balisa, we're celebrating veggies. Yes, we're not doing it in a savory term, but we're going to be using pumpkin that's been cooked down and mashed into our cookies. And then an array of spices. Here we've got some ginger, we've got some cinnamon, and we've got a little bit of nutmeg. So to start it off, I need to, as you know, with baking, we need to cream our sugar and our butter together, and then I'm going to add some vanilla essence. But I see you guys have already started on your side.
Yeah, I'm making the icing now, already started. The butter, as you said, is softened up. You need soft butter to do this. And then I mix it with vanilla essence, and then you need boiling water. And then you just need to break down those ingredients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. And for me, I'm on the added texture station. I'm adding that extra texture with some chopped up nuts. Now, we're going to be putting these chopped up nuts inside the actual sponge, in the actual cookie itself, being able to just add that extra crunch and then some on top. Yes, there's a little bit of a variant, a different option that we're using from one that we've detailed in the recipe, but I love it. Here, we're just leveling up the taste, leveling up the texture.
Correct, Balisa. And if you don't want to add nuts, you're more than welcome to not add them into your recipe, because I know that some people do have a nut allergy, so that's fine. You don't even have to include them at all into the specific recipe. Into our creamed sugar and butter, Balisa, I'm going in with our vanilla essence, and I'm going to now switch from my spatula, which we used to cream the butter and sugar together. I'm now going to switch to my whisk, and we're going to get that elbow grease going in there, because I'm now going to start adding our eggs one at a time to make sure that we fully incorporate them before we add any of our other ingredients.
Beautiful. And here are the nuts that are going to go on the inside. Does it go on your station, Dumi, or
Yes.
here?
It goes to me.
Thank
Dumi,
you very
beautiful.
much.
Now, Dumi, at what stage do we add our Clover NutriKids?
Balisa, actually, well done on picking that up, because maybe I can also get started with sifting our dry ingredients as well. Because like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be incorporating it into our cookie, and we're going to start by sifting our flour, and then into this goes a 1/4 cup of our instant milk powder, and I've got that measured out here. So let's
Perfect.
just
I mean,
do that.
Clover NutriKids has a nutritious range for kids ages 3 and upwards, which are some of the things we're using today. Instant medium fat milk powder, instant medium fat dairy liquid blend, low fat dairy snacks, and 3 fun flavors of fruit nectar blends. Today, Dumi, here, this is what we're talking about when we talk about the powder form.
Correct, Balisa. And I know that a lot of kids from the age of 3, because they don't want to take that milk, you put it into this for them, you put it into their scuffteen when they go to school, and then you can make sure that they get all those nutrients, because it's great for the development of kids, Balisa. It really aids in the growth and development of our kids. And it's also a great source of calcium, Balisa. All those nutrients and minerals they can definitely get from our NutriKids range, and that's why we've got it here, and we're using it in our recipe today.
Love that. And on the icing station, Aphelele is the messy chef. His station is forever. I believe in cleaning as I go, so I'll be the meticulous one.
Okay.
I'll be the one cleaning up, but what have you done?
Thank you,
so far?
Palisa. What I've done so far, remember, I melted the butter with vanilla essence, and now I added icing sugar in it.
Oh, that texture looks amazing.
So-
very silky.
Very silky. The trick of getting that and then you don't have the lumps is to add a little bit of icing sugar first, and then you whisk it up, make sure that there's no lumps in it, and then you add the rest of your icing sugar to that.
Okay.
Then use a whisk, and then at the end, use a spatula.
Okay, so here we're using all of the tools in our kitchen. I don't know who is going to be on cleanup duty, but I'm sure you can get the kids involved there too. This is a recipe for the entire family, for everyone to enjoy. And I'm pretty much done with the nuts that are going to go on top of the mixture. These nuts I didn't grind as finely as the other ones, just because I want to be able to see them at the top of our delicious pumpkin squares. Now, Dumi, pumpkin in a dessert?
Yes, Balisa. Pumpkin is quite a versatile veg, and that's why I love it so much. It's so versatile that you can add it into this mixture over here. So what I'm doing is I'm just creaming everything else together first. I've added the dry ingredients, and then I'm going to add our pumpkin into this just to make sure that it still stays as the hero. I don't want it to be fully incorporated as one. So I'm going to add it at the very end. And I've also made sure that when I add my nuts, I toss them in a bit of flour, because you know, like we always say, if you're going to be adding nuts or anything heavy into the dish, you don't want it to sink to the bottom. You want it to be fully incorporated in the rest of your dish. And then I'm going to scoop all of this into our baking tray to bake these at 180 palisa for about 20 to 30 minutes. It can go less. The whole idea is just to eyeball it, because obviously ovens do differ.
Yeah.
So it is best to just eyeball it and make sure. And as you can see, I am folding because we don't want to overwork our batter. And this goes into the oven.
What excites me, Dumi, about this recipe is that for as big and as chunky as those squares are, do you know what it reminds me of? A foundation.
Yeah.
It reminds me about the foundation of a house, which leads me to the beautiful NutriKids range, which is set on providing a foundation of healthy development for kids, as it contains essential nutrients and minerals. Now, as Dumi has mentioned, it is a source of calcium, which aids kids in the development of strong, healthy bones to bring out the best in the little ones. A lot of the little ones are studying at home right now. They are working from home or learning from home. So this is a nice tea time snack.
Yes, definitely, Balisa. Chef, I don't know if you want to do the icing or if I should, because I think...
I'll do the icing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You can do that. Let's do this. Let's just take it out of the bake so that people can actually see what we're talking about. And you can ice that baby for us.
And actually put it on this.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Can you also pass me the nuts, please, Dumi?
The nuts, definitely. There we go. And you can ice that baby for us and toss it in those nuts. And, Balisa, I think this is, like you said, a perfect tea time treat.
Indeed, you stole the words right out of my mouth, because it is a treat that the kids will love. To get your hands on this recipe, head over to afternoonexpress.co.za.
NutriKids is what we need to help us to get strong in here. NutriKids, great for mom, way better for kids.
Made with love by Clover.
Picasso, I mean, what an artiste. I thought that you were just an Olympic chef. Here you are providing all the above, so much more. Dumi, do you want to just give us a few hints as to eyeballing this when it's done?
Well, Balisa, it is all about making sure it's nice and golden brown. So just make sure that you follow the recipe and make sure it's beautifully golden brown. It's better to underbake your cake than to overbake it, because you don't want it to be dry.
Stunning. Now, we raised the stakes, and it'll be time to enjoy them when we come back in just a moment.
Express yourself.
Our pharmacies are on the front line of healthcare. This is Pharmacy of the Week.
To serve the community in Springs, it's a suburb in Springs, so we know the parents, the grandparents, the children, as they grow up, their children. So it gives quite a lot of satisfaction to serve the community and give advice about medicine and how to have a better lifestyle, to look after their health, and to also advise how to use the right medicine or the right way, and also to help people to decide about this vaccination at the moment, COVID, because there's a lot of people very against it, which is stupid. So we try to tell the people about the advantages of using it. Well, I think one has to be brave, especially with this COVID for the past few months. You have to come every day with the fear of getting sick yourself. You don't want to take the illness back to your family. I'm here to serve the community.
Pharmacy of the Week, proudly brought to you by Adcock Ingram OTC, sponsors of Brave.
to my favorite place on earth, the Afternoon Express dining room table, where I am ready to eat. Now, it is that time of the show where we get to enjoy all these beef and vegetable-inspired meals, and we honestly can't wait. So let's dig in. Dumi, remind us, what did we make?
Today we made oxtail, and then we have also a T-bone steak with potatoes, and we having tripe, the pasta.
Well, yeah, tripe definitely the different way. I've never enjoyed pasta like this, so I think that is a highlight of mine and something that I'm looking forward to trying. And for yourself, Dumi, I see you dove into the oxtail.
You know, Palesa, about that oxtail, and as you can see, Palesa, to show that it's cooked perfectly, it literally is falling off the bone. You know, the bone is almost slipping out of there. So that's exactly how you want your oxtail to be cooked. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to go into this tangy tomato tripe that we just made.
Love that.
I want to taste the tripe.
Chef, what flavors are you looking for when it comes to that tripe? Because I'm used to just making tripe the old school way, Jay, with nothing much.
The old school way, I love that also because you're getting the strong tripe flavors in it. But this one, you're getting the acid from the tomatoes also.
Okay.
This is more of the new, what am I call it? My grandmother wouldn't eat this. But the new age people would love this type of tripe.
Definitely. I'm going to have some of this tripe as well.
Brilliant. And on that note, here comes the big taste tester. So it already, as soon as I put my fork onto that piece of tripe, it went straight in. It's tender. So here's to the flavor. Okay. Oh, wow.
Something different.
I love the fact that we did something different here, Dumi. Adding, I taste that garlic. You know, as soon as I thought I was done tasting all the different elements and all the different flavors, wow, okay, I definitely taste that garlic coming through. It's tender, just like you said, but I'm normally afraid of tomato bases because tomato bases can kind of sucker punch you, that acidity, but this is quite mellow, quite mild, beautiful.
Definitely, Palesa, and it's not too tangy where you feel like, you know, when it hits the back of your tongue here where you make that face. It's not that at all. It's beautifully
Pass me
perfect.
the oxtail, please.
Okay, awesome. Can I also ask you, Palesa, to dish up some of that steak for me? I think I want to have it because most people want their steak well done. I think this is how I like my steak.
You like a
Medium
little red, huh?
I like a little red on
And on that note, Dumi, please pass me that side plate.
Sure,
you know, I cannot let you go without a good quiz. So today's quiz question goes a little bit like this. As much as we all love Bambi, but deer meat is a favorite for hunters and, of course, others around the table. So what is the name of deer meat?
Deer meat that we call venison. That is called venison, and I mean, like, the flavors are beautiful also. You get the gaminess, true gaminess from it.
Absolutely. It surely is venison. Do you enjoy yourself a good venison? Piece of venison?
Yes, I do, actually. That with a glass of red wine. Perfect.
Voila. Well, I think you've also done a sterling job here. Everything looks, smells, and tastes even delicious. Which leads me to our social media question. We wanted to find out from South Africans if you could eat one meat and one meat alone and for the rest of your life until the day you die, what meat would that be? Chef, what would it be?
For me personally, lamb racks. The sweetness, soft, tender. That's it. Yeah.
Lamb. Wow, I can't even talk. This oxtail,
I agree.
so good. Dumi, if you were to answer the question.
I agree with Chef, actually. I think lamb, for me, is the one meat that I could eat top to tail. I could enjoy any part of it for the rest of my life. I'm good with lamb.
You know, I've always said chicken, but this oxtail is a good contender. Now, the only beef we'll have with you is if you don't head over to afternoonexpress.co.za right now for these mouth-watering recipes. Chef Aphelele, thank you so much for today, but you will be back, ne?
Yes, I will be back. Thank you guys for having me again, yeah?
Exciting.
Amazing.
Catch us again on Thursday from 5:30 p.m. for even more irresistible beef and veggie dishes with Chef Aphelele. But until then, Mzansi, good night. Stay safe, good night, and happy eating. Here's to baking the winter blues away and trying new adventurous recipes to put the spring back in your step. Made with love by Clover.
Another feel-good production.